Before we start round 14, which is quite a complicated round, I admit, I would like to suggest some stitch marker placements to make this round a little bit easier to work. First, I will be using green stitch markers for this. You may use a different color. I'm going to place these green ones around this front post 0-2. That's the second special stitch on this side from each corner. So that's where I'm going to place these. Next, I'm using orange stitch markers and I will place them around this front post treble. Then we work backwards. That was one from the opposite side and this one from the normal side. So there's in the first special stitch that's free, then second from each side there is a green stitch marker, then the next special stitch that we have here I've got orange stitch markers, and in the top loops from 2 rounds below and 2 together A I've got the red and 2 together B I've got the blue. I will be moving them from the top loops to the first legs respectively, but we do that together when we get there. So this round will need some concentration. Just to give you a heads up and a little warning, I've actually done this, I've recorded this round 3 times already. So this is my third, no, it's my 4th time. Okay, let's do it together slowly. 2 single crochet, a HDC BB, top loops of the next stitch, and in the first of those we've got the 2 skipped stitches from the previous round, and in the first, and then making our HDC BB. Now we work a DCBB in the second of those. Let me see. Where is it? Yeah, here we go. The second of those 2 skipped stitches, and we'll work a double crochet in that. We skip the stitch in front of the double crochet and we make 1 single crochet. Now we go back with a front post treble around the stitch where I've got the green stitch marker here, which is the one that goes straight down. We skip 1 stitch, 3 single crochet. We're going to work in the top loops of the 2 together A stitch. So before I do that, I'm going to move my stitch marker from here around leg 1 of the same stitch. So that was these 2 stitches. I'm going to place the stitch marker around leg 1. Then I'm going to work a treble in these top loops, in both loops of that 2 together A stitch from round 12, which means I'm working 2 ahead and 2 down. I skip the stitch behind here and I work 1 single crochet. Now we've got a 2 together stitch where both legs will be treble legs, but the first will be worked under and then around and from the opposite side. So go step by step. We work under this stitch, that's the one we just made, that treble in the front, in the top loops. We're going to work around this stitch here, which I've marked by my orange stitch marker, and we work it from the opposite side. So I'm inserting my hook from the opposite side. Then I work my treble leg, and then I just let that go. And now I'm working my second leg, which will go into the top loops of this stitch. And before I do, I'm going to move the stitch marker from here around leg 1 of the same stitch, like that. Oh, actually, while I'm at it, I'm going to move this stitch marker here around to the next side. And this, because we won't need that anymore, also to the next side. Okay. Now I've got to work my second leg, which I said goes in the top loops of the 2 together B stitch from round 12. So that's done. Great. Skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet. Now we've got another 2 together stitch where the first leg is going to be worked under leg 2 of the stitch we just made, and then around the stitch with where I've placed my red stitch marker, which is leg 1 of the 2 together A stitch from round 12. So this is leg 1, and that's worked from the normal side, so that's great. And leg 2 goes around this stitch where I have the orange stitch marker. Great. So I'm going to move this here. Actually, I'm just going to move it around leg 1 already, because I will be able to find the top loops. But if you're unsure, move your red stitch marker into the top loops of the next stitch, and then switch it to leg 1 later on. Okay, so I've done this 2 together stitch. We skip 1 stitch, single crochet in the next. Now we're making a front post treble again, and this one will also be worked under the stitch we just made around leg 1 of the 2 together B stitch, which in my case is the one where I've got the blue stitch marker. So I'm going to pull this leg through, and I work my front post treble around it. And now I'm going to move this. If you want, you can move it into the top loops. I will be moving it around leg 1, because I know I can find the top loops. Okay, so that's that. Now we skip 1 stitch and we make 3 single crochet. And now you should have 2 single crochet before this special stitch, which is going to be a front post treble that we're working from the opposite side. So I'm grabbing this stitch and then I insert the hook from the opposite side, and I work my front post treble. Now I'm going to move these stitch markers here. So this one, the orange one, goes around here. Second special stitch from the corner. Well, actually the third, sorry, because this is the second. This is almost invisible. Okay, so I've moved all my stitch markers. I'm good now. I skip 1 stitch, single crochet in the next. And it's no mistake that we are working in the same order, which means we're first working a HDCBB and then a DCBB. Exactly like we did at the beginning of the side here. It's no mistake that this is not symmetrical. They serve a specific purpose, and in order to work symmetrically, we sometimes have to do seemingly asymmetrical moves. And we finish with 2 single crochet. Okay. So, woohoo! High five to you. Boop. High five. Okay, let's do the other side together. So one more time. 2 single crochet, a HDC BB, then a DC BB in the second of those 2 skipped stitches, 1 single crochet, a front post treble worked back around the stitch with a green stitch marker. And I'm moving my green stitch marker. Just moving it to the next side. Maybe you were clever and you've got enough stitch markers, so you just use them. Maybe you've placed them already on each side, so that's good. We skip 1 stitch, 3 single crochet. So you should now be here. That's good. We work a treble +2 -2 in the top loops of the 2 together A stitch. And if you've moved your stitch marker to the top loops, move it to leg 1 of the same stitch now. We skip 1 stitch and single crochet in the next. Now for the 2 together stitch, our first leg is going to work under the stitch we just made, then around the stitch with the orange stitch marker, but from the opposite side. So I pull through first, then I hold the stitch and insert the hook from the opposite side. There we go. I'm going to move my orange stitch marker from here to here. Third special stitch, the next after the green one. Oops, I accidentally finished my stitch. I need to do the second leg first. Okay, so the second leg goes into the top loops of the 2 together B stitch. So if you've moved your stitch marker to the top loops, move them around leg 1 now, and then work your second leg of this 2 together stitch in the top loops. Okay. 1 single crochet, and this 1 single crochet is the center stitch. So maybe you want to check that you're just above the center. Our second 2 together stitch is going under the leg 2 of the stitch we just made, around leg 1 of the 2 together A from round 12. That's the one where I have placed my red stitch marker. I'm going to pull it through, and it's worked in the normal direction. Leg 2 is also a front post treble, which will be worked around the stitch with the orange stitch marker, which is 2 ahead, 1 down. I'm going to move the stitch markers that I don't need anymore. And again, I'm going to place this around leg 1 of the 2 together A stitch, which is, here is the top loops, and this is the 2 together A from round 12. And I'm also moving the orange stitch marker from here to here. That's the third special stitch from the corner back. Okay, skip 1 stitch behind the special stitch, 1 single crochet. And now our front post treble that we work again under leg 2 of the stitch we just made, around leg 1 of the 2 together B. This is where I have placed my blue stitch marker. Let's pull that through, and I'm working this front post treble. And now I can move my blue stitch marker. I'm going to place it around leg 1 of the 2 together B. You can see here are the 2 legs, here are the top loops, and if you want, you move them to the top loops or already around leg 1 of that stitch. We skip 1 stitch, and then we'll make 3 single crochet. Remember, you should have 2 single crochet left here now, and we're going to work a front post treble from the opposite side around this stitch. 2 ahead, 1 down. From the opposite side, like that. So that's the worst done now. 1 single crochet, a half double crochet, the HDC BBX, and I'm working in the first of those 2 skipped stitches here. HDC BBX, adjusting my height to match that of the previous stitch here, and then a DCBB. And again, it's not mirrored from the beginning, and this is on purpose, it's not a mistake. And we finish this side with 2 single crochet. And before we go to the next side, let's just move the last of those stitch markers together. So I really suggest to use this. I'm usually not a fan of using stitch markers because they're always in my way, but for this one I would really suggest it. Okay, so we've done half of this. Just repeat the last side 2 more times. Of course, you can just take the stitch markers out on the last side. You don't have to carry it on. We don't need these anymore. We'll be placing other stitch markers again differently, but we do that at the beginning of round 15, where I'm going to meet you soon. We won't need it yet for round 15, but I still suggest to just do it now so we won't forget. We're going to place a stitch marker around leg 1 of that 2 together C stitch, which was the first 2 together in round 14 that we made. Just around this leg, and also around leg 1 of the 2 together D stitch here. There we go. Yeah. Now I'm going to use purple for this 2 together C and pink for the 2 together D. You could use any of the other colors. I'm just going to use these. Okay, so for round 15, we start after the corner with 2 single crochet. Then we're making a front post treble +1 -2, which will go around this stitch here. That's a long front post double treble from round 12. Then we skip 1 stitch and 3 single crochet. We'll have a HDC BB, top loops of the next stitch, and the top loops of the skipped stitch. And then 1 single crochet, The next stitch is a little bit unusual, so we're going to work the first leg as a front post treble leg, but we need to yarn over, because in the end this will be a front post double, a half double treble. So we need that extra yarn over for substance, but we work it as a treble first. So we go back around the stitch we just passed here. Then we go through 2 and go through 2. We leave 3 loops on the hook here now. And the second leg, we go ahead 2 and down 1. And we work from the opposite side. So insert your hook from the opposite side, and then go through 2, go through 2, and now we go through all the loops on the hook. We want that substance here at this point. And then we skip 1 stitch and we work a single crochet. Now again a half double crochet, HDC BB X through the top loops and the skipped loops. Another single crochet. In the DC BB we work that behind the 2 together C stitch in the top loops. Double crochet in the top loops of the skipped stitch. Then a single crochet in that center stitch here, and another DC BB, double crochet in the skipped loops 2 rounds below. 1 single crochet again, and the HDC BBX. We go through the top loops and we go through the top loops of the skipped stitch. Now here you have to make sure to find the correct ones, because there is that gap here below from where we worked 2 special stitches above each other. We work 1 single crochet, and now we're going in 2 directions again with a 2 together stitch, and the first leg is again the half double treble. So we yarn over 3 times, but we work the stitch as a double treble, as a treble first, and we go back around this stitch just with a normal insert. So you leave those 3 loops on the hook, and on the second leg we're going from the opposite side. And then through all loops. Then we skip 1 stitch again, 1 single crochet, and a HDC BB going in those, closing that gap in the top loops and the skipped stitch loops. 3 single crochet, and now a front post treble from the opposite side, which we will work around this stitch. So I'm just going to pull that out a little bit, insert the hook from the opposite side, and I work my front post treble. And then I've got 2 single crochet left at the end of the side. Now let's do it together again. 2 single crochet, a front post treble around this stitch here, skip 1 stitch, 3 single crochet, HDC BB, single crochet, a 2 together stitch, where the first leg is a half double treble in the end, but we start to work it as a treble. So go through 2, then go through 2, leave 3 loops on the hook, yarn over twice again, work around this stitch from the opposite side, the treble leg, go through 2, go through 2, and now go through all loops on the hook. Skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, a HDC BB, another single crochet, a DC BB, a single, this is the center stitch, another DC BB, another single crochet, and a HDC BB. One single crochet and a 2 together stitch where we work the first leg with 3 yarn over, but as a treble, and the second leg from the opposite side also a treble. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, HDC BB, 3 single, and a front post treble from the opposite side around this stitch. Opposite side, insert the hook from the opposite side, and 2 single at the end. That's it. Alrighty. So now just repeat that last side 2 more times, and then close your round with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the starting corner, and we'll be ready for round 16 then. There will be a lot of gap filling in round 16 and a few special stitches too to complete this picture. Okay, let's start with a single crochet in the back loop only, then 2 single crochet, a HDC BB, then 5 single crochet, and then a front post single crochet. Now the next stitch can be a little bit hidden here, so just watch that you've got the correct stitch. 1 single crochet, and then we're working a treble in the top loops of the stitch where we marked the first leg. So if you wanted, you could have put some stitch markers in the top loops and just moved them to the first leg like we did, but I have got faith in you and I know that you can find those top loops easily. Skip 1 stitch, a single crochet. Now we do the same in the top loops of the next 2 together stitch from round 14. There we go. It's where we marked the first leg with a pink stitch marker. Then skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet. That's again the center stitch of the square, so you can check that you're at the right place. And then we go back with a treble, a front post treble, but under the stitch we just made. So we go back under the stitch around leg 1 of the 2 together C. That is the leg that we marked with a purple stitch marker. Oops. So that means I have to pull that out so I can work around it. So that's that. And like we did in round 14, you can just move that along to the next side if you want. Or maybe you've got enough stitch markers and you did that already. Okay, so we skip 1 stitch again and then we single crochet. And now again a front post treble, -2, -2, which this was as well. And we're going around leg 1 of the 2 together D stitch, where we marked the leg with a pink stitch marker here. That's it. We skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, and then a front post single crochet. And again, the first single crochet might be hidden. You can check that you've got the correct one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets, what we need to do. So it's easy to find the first one. Just in case you're not sure that whether you've missed one or not, because that can easily happen. So 5 single crochet and then a HDC BB, 2 single crochet, and a single crochet in the back loop of the last stitch. Let's move this pink stitch marker around leg 1 of the 2 together stitch from round 14. Then we work the corner, and if you want to join me, we can do the second side together again. Single crochet in the back loop only, 2 single crochet, a HDC BB, 5 single crochet, front post single crochet, 1 single crochet, and treble +2 -2 in the top loops of this stitch here of the 2 together C. Skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, and again a treble +2 -2 in the top loops of the 2 together D. There we go. Sorry, that's actually should be E, but you know which one I mean. Then another single crochet, and now we're going back with a front post treble under the stitch we just made around leg 1 of this stitch here, where we used the purple stitch marker for leg 1. Skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, that's the that was the center stitch. Going back with a treble -2 in the top loops of the next 2 together stitch. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet in the next, a front post single crochet, 5 single crochet, a HTC BB, then 2 single crochet and a single crochet in the back loop only. So this one's not too bad, and if you just repeat the last side 2 more times, you will have round 16 finished. Close it with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the starting corner, and we'll be together again for round 17. Now before we start round 17, let's just place a few stitch markers if you want to use them. I've put one in on the fourth side already in that free front loop, because they're sometimes a little bit difficult to find on the fourth side. There are so many loops, and it's much easier to use a stitch marker for that one if the front loop is so close to the corner. So I'm placing stitch markers in the free front loops of the stitches that are just one away from the corner on either side. Okay, and we'll need them in round 18. Yeah, not yet, but later on. Okay, so let's start our round 17, which is not too difficult. We start with 4 single crochet. There's lots of closing gaps again. And then we make a front post half treble around the stitch 2 rounds below. And this looks like it's pushed a little bit to the side by the HDC BB that we made, but that's actually directly below. So we just work around this with a front post half treble. Then we skip 1 stitch and we make 5 single crochet. Then we're working a front post treble, but from the opposite side around this stitch here. So we work from the opposite side. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, and now we'll make a bit of a repeat. So half a HDC BB, and another single crochet, and another HDC BB. Then here in the center stitch we work a single crochet in the back loop only. Then again HDC BB, single crochet, 1 more time, HDC BB, single crochet. Now we're working backwards with a front post treble -2 -1. So we go around this stitch here, 1 2 -1. Front post treble. Skip 1 stitch, 5 single crochet, And again, a front post half treble, and this one will be worked from the opposite side. Go through 2 and go through 3. And then we finish the side with 4 single crochet. So let's do that together one more time on the next side. Four single crochet to start with. Actually, and if you want, you can just place maybe we can do that as we go. Place a stitch marker in that free front loop there. Then a front post half treble around this stitch. Skip 1 stitch, 5 single crochet. A front post treble plus 2 minus 1 from the opposite side. We'll be working around this stitch from the opposite side. Oh no, that's a front post treble. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, HDC, BB. Again, single crochet, HDC, BB. Now a single crochet in the back loop only, HDC, BB. Single crochet. One more time, HDC, BB, single crochet. Now we're working back with a front post treble around the stitch here. Minus 2, minus 1. Skip 1 stitch, 5 single crochet. A front post half treble from the opposite side around this stitch. Skip 1 stitch and finish the side with 4 single crochet. And that's it. If you want, again, as I said, you can place a stitch marker in the free front loop. Here we are, of that middle stitch. And maybe do it as you go, then it's easier to find. Okay, so repeat that last side 2 more times and then close with a slip stitch into the first single crochet of the starting corner, and we'll get ready for round 18. In round 18 we're going to have a little bit of a very special stitch, something quite unusual that we have not had before, I think. But we start with 2 single crochet, and then we are here just above this free front loop, and we're going to work a 4 treble cluster into this front loop. So we're working 4 treble, and we close and close with a chain 1, and then another 2 single crochet. Then we're working a HDC BB and By now you're probably really familiar with this stitch. Or HDCBBX, sorry. 1 single crochet, and then a front post treble -2 -1, which means we're going to work around this stitch here. Skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, and now our very special stitch. We're going to make a 2 together stitch where the first leg is again a half double treble. So we yarn over 3 times, but we will only work it as like a treble. But we're going back around a stitch we just made here. So that's that stitch here. That's 2 back and 0 down. It's in because we made it in the same round. And then we're going 2 ahead and 1 down. 1, 2 ahead, 1 down. That's this stitch, and we're going to work this leg also as a treble leg, but from the opposite side. And now we go through all loops on the hook. Skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, and another half double crochet, HDCBB. A single, and now a front post treble +2 -2. 1 2 1 2. We're going to work around this stitch. Skip 1 stitch, 2 single crochet, and here we are above this free front loop where we're going to work a 4 DC cluster. So that's a bit smaller than the ones on the side. It's just a DC, or 4 DCs, a DC cluster, like we did in the beginning in round 9. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, oh, actually 2 single crochet. Now we're going back with a front post treble. This one will be worked from the opposite side though. So we go back 1 2 and 1 2 stitches. That's that one that's peeking out from here. We're going to work it from the opposite side. So inserting my hook from the opposite side. It's almost a little bit like crocheting backwards. Then 1 single crochet, a HDCBB, single crochet, and going back with a front post treble -2 -1. We'll be working around this stitch here. Skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, and again a very special stitch. This time when we go back with our first leg, with our front post treble leg, it will be worked like normal. We go back around the stitch we just made, that front post treble. Go back around the same stitch, or the stitch in the same round, and for our next leg we're going to work a front post half double treble from the opposite side. So the half double treble means we work through 3 loops. We yarn over 3 times, and then so later on we can work through 3 loops at the last yarn over, and we insert from the opposite side. 2 ahead, 1 down. So and now I'm going to work through all loops on the hook. So that gives me an extra yarn over on the 3rd pull through. 1 single crochet in the next stitch, HDC BBX, 2 single crochet, and a 4 treble cluster in the stitch that is 3 rounds below. So 0 minus 3. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's early morning here. I thought I'd like to do the video in the early mornings, but maybe I need to let the chickens out first. So 2 single crochet at the end of the side. And the dog is also happily chewing away on his bone. So maybe I do the other side. Give me a second and I'll be back for the other side. That literally was 1 second for you, wasn't it? Okay, on the second side, 2 single crochet, and then our 4 treble, 0 minus 3. So we work in the front loop of the stitch 3 rounds below. We'll make a 4 treble cluster, which means we're working this treble, leave it unfinished with the last yarn over, and then, oh, did I make 5? No, I've got 4. And then we bring them together and I close with a chain 1. 2 more single crochet, and then the HDC, which I'm sure you have come to love. Just have to, otherwise 1 single crochet and front post treble minus 2 minus 1. We work around this stitch here. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet. So now our very special stitch, which is a 2 together stitch, the 2 together F, where we're going to work around the stitch that we made in the same round. And with the first leg is the half double treble. So yarn over 3 times and then go back around the stitch we just made. Go through 2 loops, go through 2 loops, yarn over twice again for the second leg, which we're going to work ahead 2 stitches and down 1 round, which is this one, but from the opposite side. Go through 2 for the normal treble, and now we go through all the loops on the hook. We skip 1 stitch, 1 single crochet, and a HDC BB. One single and a front post treble plus 2 minus 2. We're going to work around this stitch here. 1 2 1 2. If this is too short, make it double treble. Always adjust your stitches. 2 single. And now a 4 DC cluster. So we've got the trebles on the side, the treble clusters on the side, and the DC cluster in the middle. That's our center stitch here. 1 2 3 4. Skip the stitch behind this cluster, 2 single, and now back with a front post treble minus 2 minus 2, but worked from the opposite side. So we go 1, 2 back, 1, 2 down. That's this stitch, but we work it from the opposite side. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, a HDC BB, and see I'm adjusting the height of the stitch to match the previous single crochet here. 1 single crochet, a front post treble, -2, -1. We're going to work this around this stitch here. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, and our other very special stitch. We'll work 2 legs together. The first leg is a treble leg, a front post treble. We're going back around the stitch we just made here with that treble, working a front post treble around that stitch. The second leg is going to be a half double treble worked from the opposite side around this stitch. Half double treble, opposite side. Go through 2, go through 2, and now we go through all loops on the hook. Skip 1 stitch, single crochet, and now we make a DC BB. And 2 single crochet, and again here we're going to make a 4 DC treble. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And close. And there is only 2 single crochet left before the corner. There we go. Okay, so just repeat that last side 2 more times and then close with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of that corner there. And then we've got 2 more rounds to go. We're almost there. In round 19, we're only going to finish up some loose ends, so to speak, and closing some gaps. So that's going to be pretty easy. We do 3 single crochet at the beginning, then a DC BB just behind this treble cluster there. Then 4 single crochet, a HDC BB, a single crochet, and then a front post single crochet, and we're working around this part here. A single crochet, or actually 3 single crochet, and then a front post HDC. Oops. Then 2 single. Actually, let's address this. So that you find the next stitch easily. So we've got this gap here, unfortunately, and we're going to work a front post HDC around this stitch. I'm just going to do it again, and I'm keeping this stitch here keep an eye on this one, because that is the next stitch we're going to work into. Otherwise, if you're unsure, you know that you have to do 2 stitches, so you can count backwards to make sure that you find the right one to work into. Then another DC behind this cluster, 2 single crochet. Again, front post HDC. Three single crochet. Three single crochet, and here it looks a little bit messy, but just trust the process. You can see we've got 2 gaps here, and with the first gap we're going to work a HDC BB. Then a single crochet in the next stitch, and now we've got a front post single crochet. So we'll work around that stitch and keep this one here, keep an eye on this one, because that's the next stitch we're going to work into. 4 single, and then a DC behind the cluster, and we finish with 3 single crochet. There you go. Let's do it on the other side. On the next side, 3 single, double crochet behind the cluster in the top loops of the skipped stitch 2 rounds below, 4 single, a HDC BB, if you're not familiar with the sound, these are kookaburras. A single crochet, a front post single crochet, and then 3 single crochet, lachende Hans in German, beautiful birds, and then a front post HDC and 2 single crochet, double crochet behind the DC cluster, 2 single, front post HDC, 3 single, HDC BB. Make sure to work in the correct space there. A single crochet in the next stitch, then the front post single crochet, then 4 single, a DC behind the treble cluster, and 3 single crochet. That will bring you to the corner. So 2 more times, then you're all the way around, and you close the round with a slip stitch in the first single crochet after starting corner. And then we've got 1 more round to go. Our last round, round 20, is luckily pretty easy. But to make it a bit more easier even, I'm going to use a smaller hook. I started with a 4 millimeter hook, and now I'm working with a 3 millimeter hook, because we're going to work in the 3rd loops of each stitch. So each stitch will be coming forward like you see here. I'm just going to make a few to show you the effect. Now some people really don't like working in the 3rd loop, and you see even though I've worked a bit tight in the previous round, but it's not too bad. So this is the effect that I get when I work single crochet in the 3rd loops. If you don't like that, if you think that's just too much, you can alternatively work in the back loop only. And this is what that would look like. So it's a little bit different. Similar, it still gives you an edge and gives you a distinction between later on the square border, if you want to add one, and the square itself. And in actual fact, if you choose to add, I should have left this. If you choose to add a square border and you want to do that in another color, I suggest to finish round 19 here. 1 more stitch in there. No, that's finished. That's the chain 1, and this is the starting corner. Instead of working a slip stitch into the starting corner, I suggest to cut the yarn and work an invisible join here, and then choose a different corner to attach your new yarn for round 20. And you can do that either with let me just do that. Actually, let's do that together, because I'm going to work the square in a different color, the square border in a different color. So I'm going to finish this one off with an invisible join. And for the invisible join, I'm going to skip one stitch, the next stitch, which means I'm going to work into the first of the chain 2 corner spaces, the first chain of that chain 2 corner space, and then I'm going back in the middle of the stitch here. I'm also going to grab this 3rd loop, and then just pull it as tight as the last stitch to make that truly invisible, this joint here. I'm just going into a few of those, and I can finish that off later on. Just for now. Then I'm going to grab a different color yarn for the next round, for round 20. And to join, just going to use my normal. You can either join with a slip stitch like that, and then go up with a chain 1 and then work your corner, or start directly with a slip stitch on the hook and work a standing stitch, a standing single crochet, and then chain 2, single crochet. And then I'm going to switch to the smaller hook here, and then work all the way around, either in the back loop only or in the third loop if you want to get this effect that I showed you earlier of having that V pushed forward and to get that ridge. Okay, so that is round 20. All you need to take care of is to make sure that you join, that you've got the correct amount of stitches on the side, and then at the end maybe also join with an invisible join. So cut the yarn, make the invisible join here over this first stitch, and then weave in your ends, and then your square will be finished. And maybe I see you either in the plants and herbs border that Veronica also designed, or I see you in one of the videos for the border from season 1, which is Jamie, Claire and Frank, or I see you for the Scotland border, if you want to add one, that is, which is the season 2, official season 2 border that I designed for the squares, or I see you for the border that I specifically designed for this square, which is the Dragonfly border. And the Dragonfly border looks like this. So that's the Dragonfly border. The Dragonfly, the first 3 that I mentioned, are part of the cull. This border, the Dragonfly border, is an add-on, but will be available from the 15th of December 2021 onwards. And I hope you enjoy this square. If you did, please subscribe, give me a like. Every like counts, and sharing is caring. Okay, I hope you had lots of fun and that I will see you in one of the next patterns. Until then, have a good time. Bye.